Let's go back to Israel, this time to Jerusalem, and catch up with Jonathan Spire again. He's with the Middle East Forum. He's a journalist, author and Middle East expert. Good to catch up with you again, Jonathan. I was going to ask you about whether there's more missiles coming in, but just half an hour ago we were speaking with Sharon Haskell live in Tel Aviv, and she had to take us into a bomb shelter because there were alerts going off there. So this strong military intervention by the US, which has obviously been welcomed by most Israelis, certainly hasn't stopped the incoming missile attacks.
Well, that's absolutely right, Chris. And indeed, you're right to point out this morning there have been sirens and reports of a new fresh barrage of Iranian missiles coming in, also in the north around Haifa, also in the south around Ashdod, from what I've been reading in recent minutes. So, yeah, clearly the Iranians intend to keep this ongoing series of missile attacks going. Having said that, yeah, the damage to property is very significant. The damage to lives, and whilst loss of every life is, of course, an absolute tragedy, has been limited. 24 people killed so far. Israelis are responding to the orders of the Home Front Command with regard to going to shelters and sealed rooms where needed. And it does seem that those rules and those precautions save lives. And as long as that continues, I think, the Iranians can keep this up. But if they think they're going to get any result from it, I think they're sorely mistaken. Israel still has freedom of the skies over Iran and is continuing to hit at Iranian military and regime and nuclear-related targets on a daily basis. So the Iranians can keep this drip of missiles going, but I don't think they really stand to gain very much from it in terms of on a policy level.
Yeah, now, Jonathan, you've reported and travelled right across the region. You've spoken to all players, malevolent and otherwise. What's your best guess on two key questions? That is, whether or not the US is going to be drawn into more military action against Iran, and secondly, what sort of response we should expect in the region from Iran, other than missiles at Israel?
Yeah, so, and of course, the two questions are closely related in the sense that the United States has made clear that from its point of view, the action it took against Fordow and Natanz and Isfahan was not an entry into the war, but rather was an operation in which to carry out for a specific goal, which means that if the Iranians do not carry out significant retaliation against the United States targets, then my sense is, from the American point of view, America achieved what it wished to achieve. So the question is then, will the Iranians respond, and how will they respond? First of all, we have experience with the Iranians that they can take a long time to respond. For example, when Israel carried out its retaliation against the Iranian attack in April 2024, the Iranians didn't then respond to that till October, so they can take their time. This is one thing to note. I also note that your previous guest, Peter Jennings, correctly pointed out that Iranian capacities with regard to its proxies, and indeed perhaps command and control with regard to its proxies, have been very severely hit at by Israel's actions in recent months. Having said that, yeah, they do have this array of proxies in Iraq, in Lebanon, also, of course, in Yemen. They have targets as well. It's conceivable that the Iranians could seek to block the Strait of Hormuz, that vital artery for the traffic of, for the passing of oil and petroleum-related products. 20% of the world's exported petroleum and oil products goes through that strait. They could do that, but if they do that, that means a declaration of war on America, essentially, and America will, of course, respond. Same with regard to the proxies in Iraq. The Americans have their bases at Ain al-Assad Air Base, in Erbil, also in the Kurdish area. It's conceivable that the militias could try to hit that with drones or with missiles. They have that array. But again, the Iranians have to calculate the cost. If they do this, there will be a further American escalation. The Americans are very, very strong. Their capacities, obviously, and Israel's capacities vastly outweigh those of the Iranians. So the Supreme Leader has to think very carefully. By doing nothing, he looks very weak. But if he does something, he could be made to look weaker still by the retaliation, which would certainly follow.